Listen and understand. That Terminator is out there. He can't be bargained with. He can't be reasoned with. He doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And he absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are doing another movie review. This is The Terminator. The one that started it all, folks, from 1984, directed by James Cameron and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger in the role that made him famous. The Terminator. Also starring Linda Hamilton and Michael Beihn. Such an incredible classic of sci-fi, action, and horror, and it uses all three in equal measure. There's brilliant elements of science fiction, of course, that's obvious. You got incredible action and incredible horror as well. You know, a lot of people don't think of that side of the Terminator, but believe me, it's in there. There's lots of elements of a slasher film in there. When Arnold goes door to door, knocking off every Sarah Connor in the phone book, you know, and brutally murdering them. And the score as well is very scary score by Brad Fiedel, which is absolutely brilliant. And it just absolutely drives the film. It's very cold and dark sounding. It sends a chill down your spine. Even when there's scenes that are quiet, you hear that little meow, meow, meow in the background, you know. There's a lot going on in that soundtrack. It's amazing synthesizer sound in there. And you hear the, you know, just amazing. Perfect for a dark, bleak future, you know. Another thing is, I'll have to mention, is the band Fear Factory. If you guys have ever listened to that band, which I highly recommend you do. I always think of the Terminator because it's got that same cold feel of a bleak, distant future, you know, where the machines take over. That's pretty much what their music is all about. So yes, the Terminator, of course, stars Arnold Schwarzenegger in the role of the Terminator. He's a cyborg sent from the future to kill one Sarah Connor, as played by the lovely Linda Hamilton in the film. And then there's another guy sent from the future to stop the Terminator from killing Sarah Connor. Why is Sarah Connor such an important person? Obviously, there must be some reason why this insane Terminator, who is a cyborg, who's half man, half machine, in equal measure, both parts. He breathes, has hair, you know, bad breath, you know, and on the inside he's a metal exoskeleton with a hyper alloy combat chassis, as Michael Beihn so succinctly describes in the film. He really gets into the technical aspects of it. It's kind of funny at times. But yeah. So the reason being is Sarah Connor does play an important role in the future. Not her really specifically, but we know that her son, John Connor, is responsible for the group of resistance fighters. Now what happens is the future just goes to shit, you know, everything dies, you know. This company called Cyberdyne Systems builds this thing called the Machine, and they just trusted the machine to run everything, to run all technology in the world. And of course it goes rogue and everything goes wrong and it kills everybody, you know. The world is basically on the brink of extinction. Until this guy, John Connor, comes around and gathers a group of survivors to lead a resistance against the machines, you know. And that's basic plot of the Terminator, which works so well, and it's done so well, and it's incredibly well directed by James Cameron. It's got I love the scenes when they show at the beginning of the distant future, like 2029, and you see these machines flying around, the hunter-killers, you know, blasting the laser beams, killing everybody in sight. You see this weird robot tank thing running over all these human skulls. It's really sick. It's awesome, though. So well done. Yeah, this movie holds up amazingly well today, and this was from 1984. But man, the special effects, the look of the film, the dark tone, the score, everything just holds up beautifully. Even though you see people wearing like the 80s clothes and the 80s hairstyles, especially Linda Hamilton. She's got that rockin' that 80s hairdo. And you hear a few 80s, you know, modern kind of tracks in the background, but it works perfectly. But this film looks so great, especially when you see the DVD. It looks and sounds so great. The effects hold up so well. It's just amazing. I absolutely love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Definitely in my top 10 of science fiction films, which you guys can catch that in one of my videos. I did the top 10 science fiction movies of all time. Yeah, so the Terminator is just amazing. Like I said, Michael Beihn plays Kyle Reese, who is the guy sent from the future to stop the Terminator from killing Sarah Connor. And he plays an absolutely great role in the film. Excellent performance by Michael Beihn. And he tries to warn Sarah Connor, you know, like I just did a little bit of his shtick there. He tells her the whole story about how important she is, how important John Connor is, her unborn son, and he tries to warn her about the Terminator who's there to kill her. And early on, we see Linda Hamilton is at a club. She notices this guy is following her, this huge dude with a punk rock outfit, chasing her throughout this club, this dance club called Tech Noir. How poetic. And he actually tries to shoot her in the club. He's got the 45 long side with laser sighting. I love that scene when he goes to the gun shop, and of course it's got that cameo by Dick Miller, which is just perfect. And he's checking out all the guns. He's like, I will take the 45 long side with laser sighting. The Uzi 9mm. The rifle in the 40-watt range. And he just grabs these bullets off the counter. Now, why would you have a box of bullets just sitting there right on the counter? And he's like loading the gun. He's like, you can't do that. Wrong. Blows the guy away. I love that scene. That's classic. Classic Arnold, too. And he gets that awesome gun with the laser sighting, which is really cool. And makes for great effect in the movie. You see the red light going at the camera, you know, right when he's got Sarah Connor in his sights, and that's when Kyle Reese comes. He's got the sawed-off shotgun, blasts him, and he goes flying through the window. Just awesome action in this movie. But of course he gets up because he's a robot, and Linda Hampton's like, how can he take a shotgun blast to the stomach? What is with this guy? And he busts out the Uzi's like, you know, blasting everybody. And that's one of the best things about Arnold is he doesn't give a damn. You know, he's ice cold, an absolute merciless killer. And that's why he's so terrifying in the film. You don't see any expression, any emotion, nothing. There's just nothing there. He's a robot. You know? And he plays the role so perfectly. And it just sends a chill down your spine, especially when he kills Linda's best friend looking for Sarah. So he does actually come across Sarah's apartment, but she happens to not be at home at the time. But when he finds this girl and her boyfriend, this dude is like, I'm gonna bust you up, man. He grabs a lamp and tries to hit him, and he like, the Terminator tosses him all over the room, busting mirrors, busting through windows. He sends him crashing through the door. Busts him up bad and kills him. And then it's a real chilling scene. Like I said, here comes the horror aspects. When you hear that dark score, and he puts the red beam on her right in her back, blast her. And then you see how cold he is when he goes up to her, and it's like, like 5 times, And again, that emotionlessness, there's nothing there whatsoever. And it kind of reminds me of, like Michael Myers in the Halloween films, or the Jason in the Friday 13th, this emotionless, unstoppable killer. And that's where, like, the horror aspects come in, which I really love, and it's done so well in the film. Yeah, I just love everything about this movie, The performances across the board are fantastic. Linda Hamilton is brilliant. Michael Beihn is brilliant. You even got Paul Winfield playing the lieutenant of the police department, trying to track this guy down. You got Lance Henriksen. Now, interesting fact, Lance Henriksen actually wanted to play the role of the Terminator, and he was originally supposed to, until they found Arnold Schwarzenegger, So they decided to keep him on board and have him play the detective in the film, and he does a great job. Lance Henriksen is awesome, We saw him in Aliens and so many great films like Pumpkinhead, and and he's great in the film. So it's nice to see Lance Henriksen there. I'm sure he would have did a great job as the Terminator, but I can't imagine anyone being as intimidating as Arnold Schwarzenegger was as the Terminator. Nobody could possibly match that performance, in my opinion. Again, another interesting fact is Franco Columbu, professional bodybuilder who was one of Arnold's best friends, and you can see him in the film Pumping Iron. He actually competed against him in the bodybuilding competition. He plays the Terminator from the future in 2099. So a little interesting fact there. Another guy played the Terminator, another bodybuilder dude. So yeah, there's a lot of great cameos in the film. Like I said, you got Bill Paxton, Dick Miller, a lot of fun stuff. And the direction by James Cameron is absolutely top-notch. And the action in this film is amazing. And a lot of that has to do with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the fact that his character is so unstoppable, so relentless. There's one scene when he's chasing Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese. They're in a truck, and he's chasing them in a motorcycle, and you just see him sitting on the motorcycle with his gun like this. And he's got the sunglasses on and the spiked hair. Looks like a real freaking badass. And the dude's throwing, like, grenades at him, and you just see smoke, and he just doesn't stop one bit. He's absolutely relentless. Another awesome scene when you see the Terminator go looking for Sarah Connor at the police station, and he just destroys this police station. It's like blowing everybody up, killing everybody in sight. And of course there's that famous scene which you see right here, when he first arrives at the police station. It's like, Sarah Connor, I told she was here, could I see her please? And the guy's like, she's around back, she'll be out in a minute. He's like, and then he just looks around, I'll be back. And then they're like, uh-oh, he's coming, what is he coming back with? And then he just drives his car right through the police station window, through the door, and right through the cop at the desk. And then he just starts blasting the shit out of everybody with mad machine guns, shotguns, everything. Just an awesome scene. Yeah, this movie has awesome action, and the car chase scenes and the chase scenes in general are just fantastic, edge of your seat entertainment, absolutely thrilling. And you see Arnold on a bike chasing him. You see in a cop car he steals, and he chases him. And you see him chasing him with a Mack truck, trying to run them over. He does everything to try and stop him. And like Kyle Reese, he says he absolutely will not stop ever, and that's no truer words can be said about the T-101. And he's absolutely merciless and relentless. killing machine. There's no better way to describe it. And of course at the end, by the time we get towards the end, which is just an awesome finale, when we finally see what's inside of Arnold, we see the entire metal exoskeleton. And that's really badass looking, you know. It looks like a metal skeleton, literally, you know. And it's so awesome. You see the eyes moving, and it's really well done. It looks fantastic, like the effects on it. And it still holds up pretty damn well, you know. I just think it looks amazing. And yeah, so they battle Arnold in the T-101 form in the full metal exoskeleton. There's one scene where you think the Terminator is dead, and it reminds me very much of Halloween 2, the end of Halloween 2, when Michael goes through the fire and he's still walking, you know. And there's a very similar scene to that in the Terminator. And he just falls eventually, and, you know, you think he's melting and he's burning up and he's done, but that's when the robot comes out. You know? Oh, man. I can't recommend the Terminator enough. It's an absolute 5-star classic. It's one of the greatest movies ever, in my opinion. One of the greatest science fiction movies, one of the greatest action movies, one of the greatest horror movies. Just everything about it is awesome. So guys, I highly recommend the Terminator. The legendary Terminator, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, directed by the great James Cameron, starring Linda Hamilton and Michael Beihn, Paul Winfield, and Lance Henriksen. Thank you folks for joining me in the sci-fi corner. Tune in and blast off.